Welcome to the Popcorn Talk Network, for the online broadcast network that features movie discussion, news, and interviews. Press 1.
Popcorn Talk. We talk movies.
Congratulations. On behalf of the Popcorn Talk Network, the online broadcast network for movie talk, and the Schmoes know, you are now a member of the Jedi Alliance. May the Force be with you, always.
Hello there, and welcome to Jedi Alliance, a celebration of the greatest saga ever told, and soon there will be so much more saga to celebrate. I am one of your hosts. My name is Joseph Scrimshaw, and here, as always, is your other host.
I am the Internet Soapbox, Mark Donica. Joseph Scrimshaw. We got a lot to talk about today.
We sure do. We are guest-free this afternoon because Mark went on a special adventure this morning to DisneyLand.
So crowded.
To be stuck in lines forever. No, there's all sorts of new Star Wars stuff, right?
They just started what they're calling the Season of the Force, which is going to be a new seasonal offering in conjunction with Christmas. For instead of Life Day, they're just calling it Season of the Force. And I got to see as much as I can. I don't think I really missed anything other than like specific character meet and greets.
Cool.
So and merchandise, but we'll get into that merchandise when we get there.
And we'll talk about it all, but this is mostly updates to all of the existing Star Wars stuff.
And non-Star Wars stuff.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they've created new spaces for this for a lot of this showing. They overdid Space Mountain, which has been a ride that's been there since the 60s.
1872.
Sounds
right?
about right. Before space existed, and then they added an update to Star Tours, as well as there's going to be an update of the Jedi Training Academy, is what it's called.
Awesome.
That's not open yet because they have to work on casting characters for that, but I'll have a little bit about that when we get there.
Awesome. And there's, of course, a ton of Star Wars news, trailers, commercials, magazines. I think there was some skywriting of maybe some spoilers in the sky if you live in major cities. So we're going to talk through all of that news first, and then we'll get into Disneyland. And, of course, we'll do our Mind Probe and Duel of the Fate segments as we always do. So,
why don't we get started with news from the HoloNet? One of the big stories to come out of this week, before we get to the Entertainment Weekly article, Lawrence Kasdan is reporting that he is going to be done with the Star Wars franchise after the Lando. I saw Lando today. That was pretty fun. The Han Solo anthology film.
Just to push pause for just a second. When you say you saw Lando, was there a character dressed up as Lando, or was Billy D. Williams at Disneyland?
I wish it was Billy D. Williams. It was a fan
dressed
up as Lando.
Okay.
it was pretty good.
I know you've had a long day, so I want to make sure that you're not actually seeing things when you just say.
It's a long day and it's 2 p.m.
I saw Lando.
I saw him in my dreams.
Okay, so Han Solo movie.
So Han Solo anthology film is going to be Lawrence Kasdan's last Star Wars movie. Now, he's been instrumental in some of the greatest Star Wars moments. Do you think that he's going to leave at least 8 and 9 and the rest of the anthology films in good hands?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's definitely leaving them in good hands. I admit I keep ping-ponging back and forth between feeling concerned that there's not a central auteur of this new trilogy and feeling like, there are a bunch of really cool, really great people in charge. And I also do feel like Kathleen Kennedy is certainly that driving force.
Agreed 100%.
But at the same time, there have been more interviews with JJ that have come out, JJ Abrams, my buddy JJ, that discuss how much he and Lawrence Kasdan shaped this first film, and then Rian Johnson has his own ideas that he's going to pursue. And that sounds great because I'm a huge fan of Johnson, but it does make me feel like, is there one person who's like, this is the story? It's so far removed from George Lucas, good or bad, being a crazy old wizard, basically, who says, this is the way it should be. This is my story, whether you agree with me or not. This is the way it should be.
I just hope that's really all that we can do. I'm pretty sure that Johnson's got a heading, or at least an outline, where it's like, okay, I have some ideas. Well, here, watch this movie first, or here, read this outline, read this, and we're going for these themes. Go.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure that's all Kathleen Kennedy. That's I'm pretty sure, but considering she's not in a super direct creative capacity, I can understand that. But I figure she's like, no, we're doing this right.
Yeah.
I mean, it'll be sad to see him go, but what a legacy he's left.
Yeah, and who knows? It's early going. Maybe mind will be changed.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
He might get to the end of the thing and go, wait, no, not this last one. Because Kevin Smith was supposed to retire like 4 years ago, so there's that. Also, a fun story is that The Force Awakens is skipping early award shows to maintain secrecy. So with that, they're just gonna hope for the best once the movie comes out and then be submitted. I wish more movies would do something like this, because screeners get out, especially in this town, so frequently, and it's like, oh, by the way, all of this happens, and BB-8 is the reincarnated soul of Darth Vader. So
Right.
like any sort of anything. So the fact that Star Wars is taking any sort of a chance of not being revealed.
Right. And as of now, they've said they're skipping the awards showings, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they're not doing press screenings yet, right?
No, they are doing press screenings. I know that for
Okay.
sure, but they're not sending out screeners for at least I think until maybe like January or February, something like that. They're not sending them out before the release of the film, and then after that they'll start submitting.
Yeah.
Hopefully they'll make it in the last couple times. But at the same time, though this is Star Wars, sci-fi and nerdy films don't tend to do well at like the Oscars. Do you think this
No.
has any sort of a chance in non-technical aspects?
I think maybe a slim possibility. I mean, we've seen over the years that genre things that used to be just like no eventually begin to make their way in. You know, I remember, years ago when Misery won stuff and like a horror movie at the Academy Awards. What? The same thing with Pixar movies, like, cartoons aren't movie, So I think that, I don't know if The Force Awakens will be the one that shifts that paradigm, but I think with the incredible popularity of tentpole movies and of geek stuff, eventually that's got to shift a little bit in some way.
I agree. I think we'll definitely see stuff it'll be nominated for costuming, for effects, for music, for all of that great stuff. But hopefully it can pull something more out than that. There was a time, and this is for you, JTE, when Rocky did win the Best Picture award for the Academy Awards. So anything is possible. Not to poo-poo on Rocky because it's an amazing movie. And now we're getting into a little bit of the nitty-gritty from the Entertainment Weekly article. First, starting with Supreme Leader Snoke. We got a lot of descriptions from Andy Serkis, not an exact picture of the guy, but he's going to be something that we haven't seen before.
Yeah, it's basically a discussion of, why didn't you just play him as a human? Did you really need to do the motion capture? And he's like,
or like makeup or
prosthetics. Couldn't you have been? Yeah. And he said, well, no, the alien's just got a face that's not human shaped. I can't wear a mask to be this alien because I think he said specifically tall and a weird shaped face.
Yeah.
Which seems like
that's a mon.
Yeah, seems like for those of you who are not following along as obsessively with the theory that Supreme Leader Snoke is actually Darth Plagueis, who is a Mun who has been seen in Star Wars movies. The alien Muns are in the trading clan, the banking clan in the Star Wars prequels. Very, very tall, very thin aliens who could look very ominous. So I can imagine that being a motion capture stuff. That's a lot of the Mun's faces are very thin.
Yes,
that's a lot of motion to back. It's like basically putting like a face on a Twizzler. Yeah. I mean, it's packing a lot.
It's like one of those old popsicle stick like toys that people would make.
Yeah, it's a cool design.
Imagine the photo of that we put up, and it's just Andy Serkis's face just stretched grossly tall, and then you kind of don't take him as seriously.
That would be horrible if suddenly this big villain was basically like N64 level graphics.
Yeah, just stretched out.
But it does really, and there's a lot of this new information this week that either directly says nope to various fan theories, which might be misdirection, and other stuff that feels like it's really fueling the flames.
It might, at the same time, for better or for worse, and we'll talk about it in some of the other stories, it made me go, oh, then I don't have to worry about thinking about that when the movie's on, and I can think about what's happening in front of me.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so like with Maz Kanata, we heard from the creators themselves, that she's a spiritual figure that believes in the Force and is just kind of like a Yoda-ish figure, while not necessarily a Jedi or Force, or we don't know if she's Force sensitive or anything, but she's just kind of that mentor character for Rey. And with all of that information, that's just making me go, oh, okay, then she's not what I thought it was, and I don't have to think about that, and I can go in and I can just watch this movie.
Okay, well, what did you think she was, or what was your theory?
The way that like in that little bit in the trailer where it looks like we see her hideout, or at least I think it is, with the big red robot and all the flags and stuff. I thought, oh, maybe she's like a Jabba the Hutt, and she houses all of these. It's a new hive of scum and villainy on Jakku instead. So I thought maybe she was a character of ill repute. But yeah, I mean that's going off of a picture on the poster and just ideas, and seeing like the picture of all of her people that are in her employ. Yeah. So just because the last time you saw that, you were in Jabba's palace, and it was just so many different types of species, or the cantina, so many different types of species. So you never know. So it was nice. It was nice to know. Cool. And also, we kind of learned that she's not just in this movie.
Where did you get that from?
Or did I misread that? I thought
I don't know. I'm not doubting. I'm asking.
Okay.
I mean, it certainly seems like if she
There's
is
a lot
much
of
more.
information.
I know. Yeah, that's the main thing. Feel free, by all means, feel free to fill up the YouTube comments with thoughts. But yeah, this week has been kind of an insane week of information, and for me, obviously, we've talked a lot about it on this show. More information than I personally want. Maybe should have started with a sort of spoiler-ish warning. None of these are spoilers. They're released by Disney and J.J. Abrams, but definitely teetering into, I think, for a lot of us, more than we want to know. But also, very much possibility we might get a little detail wrong here or there. But
yes,
I feel like a couple cool things about the Maz Kanata info that we got is what you're saying is like it sounds like she has some sort of bar, and bars have always been in Star Wars. Yeah, where mean people hang out, or people who should reconsider their lives because they're vaping or selling death sticks. So I really like that idea of like I don't actually think bars are inherently evil here in the human universe. So I'm thrilled to see like there's a wise person who runs like a nice place where aliens can relax and have a drink.
It's not a bar. It's a tavern.
Yeah, it's a tavern.
Taverns sound nice.
It's a gastropub. Yeah, in Star Wars.
Galactic gastropub.
Yeah, and I love the idea of somebody who might fill that sort of Yoda role without being necessarily... Maybe Maz Kanata is Force sensitive, but maybe she's just... He or she or it is just a wise entity that has lived for a long time.
And we don't know how long Maz Kanata has lived.
Yeah.
And they, I believe they mentioned something about the goggles specifically because her eyes are going to be a very important part in the performance capture and just in her character in general. So that I found that fun, where it's not just he kind of looks like Anakin's pod racing helmet. No, it's not. It's something for the character, and every single piece of a character's costume could mean something.
Yeah, and it's going to be really cool to finally see this character because a lot of people guessed that this character on the poster was Maz Kanata. It's great to have that confirmation because it's the one character that we hadn't really seen before, and the one character who looks like they are photobombing the poster.
Yeah.
Like they just snuck in.
They walked right by like someone taking a picture.
Me too. Yeah.
I like posters. I like Drew Struzan. And then we got to learn a little bit more about Hux, General Hux, and Starkiller Base. And we kind of got a confirmation. I mean, not a kind of. Starkiller Base is an evolution of the idea of a Death Star.
Yeah, and I think that was all but out there, but this was just directly. Yep, it is.
And do you think they would have learned? Like, this is number 3, depending on who you ask.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like there's this back and forth, and there always has been with the Death Star discussion of this sort of real-world take on it versus this is a series of movies. And that was always George Lucas's argument was always like, well, if this is a technology that was developed for years and is a super technology, why wouldn't they just rebuild it? And that's true. Like, if in our world we were making some sort of ultimate weapon, when we were trying to make a horrible weapon, we keep trying until we make it.
Yep.
So... yeah, having a setback and still wanting to make the weapon sort of makes sense, but at the same time, there's that sort of narrative repetition.
And yet JJ did tease that they wouldn't just make a carbon copy of the other one, and this one is a lot more dangerous for different reasons that we don't know yet.
Yeah, and I hope that there's going to be those really sort of, I don't want it to be winky, but I hope it's going to be this sort of fan cheering moments where it does something you really don't expect it to do, or something you always kind of thought, like, that would have been cool if the Death Star did X, so that it really does turn us around on just seeing another Death Star.
A ridiculous idea of you just see it start to fire, and then it just spins and fires lasers in every direction, and then just wanton destruction, and lasers never stopping.
Maybe the main gun just backfires and it just blows up.
or it's like a comedic sneeze where it fires and then just goes... and just blows up screen.
Yeah, but I mean, I get many theories based on the name Starkiller that it can blow up his sun now, and like that's cool and everything, but that makes it like bigger and badder and like more extreme. But that doesn't sort of change its narrative function of the thing that the Resistance
destroy a celestial body.
Yeah, must take down. It's obviously a much larger scale, but once you get into that sort of scale of storytelling of like a whole planet died, oh no, it's a whole bunch of planets. Like it doesn't. To me, it sort of doesn't matter unless you have that personal level, and I do think the film will have that sort of personal level. But this made me feel like this film is going to be much more structurally A New Hope. And I'm sure that they're going to do twists to make it not feel too much just like a sort of carbon copy structurally, but I'm curious how they're going to make those twists without making it about making the twists.
Yes, I agree. I think everybody in the audience will be there for the ride enough to where they'll just kind of leave everything at home, and then once they go in for the second, third, fourth viewings, however many, they'll be able to enjoy it and not go, oh, here it comes.
Yeah.
Another fun thing about this article was what we got to learn a little bit about General Hux and Kylo Ren's affiliation. They're not too fond of each other. It's kind of an extreme version of Tarkin and Vader, where they both have different ways that they want to get something done, but it's just taken to the extreme. Hopefully no skateboards are involved, but it's hopefully we get to see a little bit of the similar banter like we did in A New Hope. And there's a new hope that none of this will seem like old hat, but it seems like it's going to be pretty intense.
Yeah, it seemed like the idea to me that, Tarkin and Vader canonically go back a long ways.
Yeah.
In they worked together well in the Clone Wars when Vader was still Anakin, and I feel like they get along. But I feel like what new canon is sort of telling us is that Vader, being the only known practitioner of the Force at the time, was started to be seen as a little bit of a weirdo to be feared by the other Imperials.
I was wondering what word you were going to use, and I'm not disappointed whatsoever.
But yeah, and I like that picture. It sounds like what they're going to do with the First Order is like you're saying, take that farther of the kind of people who would say like, well, we don't really want a lot of aliens around. Humans are the best, and the only way the galaxy can be controlled is through like fierce order. That people who want things to be like really controlling and normal and everything straight lines, then a guy comes in like, I got a mask and I got a sword that shoots three ways.
My laser sword, I'm gonna beat everybody up.
Yeah, they're just a little like, that falls out of my sort of purview of control and the way things should be. So hopefully there'll be some sort of interesting philosophical differences.
And maybe we get a little bit more time with General Hux than just one movie. And maybe we get to see the return of the bunny slippers. Why not?
Maybe we'll learn why he doesn't want to put his arms in his sleeves.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. It's just not fashionable.
It's a great style.
Let's be honest. And then the photo gallery with a lot of the character info that has been filling our discussion. We got a little bit more kind of about everybody. Like, for instance, Princess Leia is not going to be called Princess Leia in the film. Is that as far as we should go, do you think?
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, this is one where, like, I went through a journey this week where I was really upset about the amount of information.
Yeah.
I just don't want this amount of information. I know we've talked about it a lot on the show, so I won't keep harping on it. But things like Leia's new name, there were just tweets. Those were just the names, the tweets of Leia is now going to be called General Leia. Which I don't mind that spoiler too much. That makes sense. It's like, yes, it's better than calling her princess, and there should be evolution and change. But the thing with the photo gallery in particular, like that information was in an interview with Carrie Fisher, as well as in the gallery. But the text under the gallery, if you're the kind of person who doesn't want to be able to put a lot of things together about the actual narrative of the film, the text below each of the photos, I only read about a quarter of them. And then I'm just going to stop, because it started to confirm lots of little dots. And at this point, I kind of feel like I do know the first half of the movie, of like what happens. That these people meet here because of this. Then they go to this place, and then this has to happen because that photo or that bit of information.
Yeah, like we got some character confirmations about certain origins and
interactions and
and there's some stuff where that's like good, and that's some of the stuff, as well as what Daisy Ridley said about a part of her character. She talked about her staff, and she said something that made me go, "Oh, good! I don't have to worry about thinking about that right now." Because then, if they do pull the rug from under us, it's like, "Oh, cool! Then it actually is a surprise."
Yeah,
and a lot of different characters where it's just like that. I mean, I was fine not knowing that. Or there was a quip about a line that somebody might say. And it's like, no, why would you put that in there?
yeah.
Let us enjoy it. And it's like, oh, well, that person says that line, and then it's cute, and then someone's probably going to cry. Like, there's a whole lot of stuff. I chose certain pictures on purpose.
Yes, and I noticed
because some of the other ones were just like, are you kidding me?
Yeah. But I agree with you about some of the misdirection. As much as I don't normally like misdirection in film, I would like a little dark side to cloud our judgment.
Yeah,
of like,
please.
Here are many different ideas of what might happen that could be supported by what you see happening here. So, but a lot of great photos, a lot of great info. Some stuff that's, I think, just sort of a little bit of character flavor. One more great thing, I think, from this bit of info this week that I did like is a quote from J.J. Abrams about Maz Kanata, when the interview was saying, like, so we're going to learn all about her backstory and how she did blah, blah, blah. And J.J. Abrams said, yep, for sure, somewhere. Not in the movie. It's going to be like a book or whatever.
That's probably where I got that confused, was that it's going to be expanded upon elsewhere.
Yeah, and I feel like, we've been talking so much on this show in the watch-alongs about all the great new canon books. And I have been realizing more and more, I think a lot of things in The Force Awakens are not going to be explained. Like, for example, if Rey is Luke Skywalker's daughter and not Han and Leia's, I think that might be a passing line, because what a great book.
Yeah.
Or what a great video game. So
you get
I feel
a chance
like
to take your time with something like that.
Yeah, I feel like it's just going to... I think like there's going to be a lot of unanswered questions in The Force Awakens, because there's plenty of other media to answer them in.
I think they can take their time.
Yeah.
There's a lot of other books planned for the foreseeable couple of years. Why not?
Yeah. And speaking of new stuff,
let's do it.
So we're going to talk a little bit about some of the new footage. So all of that was just interviews and photos and articles. And then we got a bunch of new actual on-screen stuff. We got on Thursday, we got a new 60-second TV spot. And we've broken down a lot of the trailers. A lot of these are reusing shots and recombining bits of dialogue. So we're just going to mention a couple of the shots that were like interesting and fun. And in that 60-second TV spot, one of the sort of meatier new shots was Han.
Yeah, see?
Han handing Rey a blaster and saying, "You might need this," and that was just fun.
Yeah,
that was just really cool.
This was one of the reminders that there were a lot of different, even though it was 60 seconds, there were a lot of different types of things that this movie is going to be, and the fact that it was a little bit earlier with the fun, it's like, hey, you might need this, and then it gets to a couple of more serious things near the end. It's like, okay, then this will be a fun movie.
Yeah, this spot still had that theme of like, oh, it's about destiny, it's about the new generation, but there was just a little bit more like cool stuff's going to happen, and Star Wars stuff that you like. This commercial made sense to me, because what I keep being confused by this slew of marketing about is they have us. They have the people who do a weekly show about Star Wars. They have the people who watch or listen to a weekly show about Star Wars. We could not hear the word Star Wars for the next 4 weeks and we'd be fine.
Yeah.
So to me, the marketing has to be about the general public. So that's what I keep seeing is like, which marketing makes sense to the general public, because I feel like that's what they should be doing. And I felt like this one did, because it did make it look exciting.
And it tightened up a little bit more than the than the Monday Night Football commercial did.
Yeah.
Because that was the really the last trailer, but then you take all of that and go, well, this for general audience, this for kids, this for parents, this for grandparents, this, that. And then you have something like this where you just sprinkle in a couple of new things for the fans.
Yeah.
And you're like, cool, set, done.
Yeah, and one fun fan shot is we had a different shot of some sort of a resistance command center that we've seen before. We saw Leia there, we saw 3PO there, and we saw some Akbar profile. We saw some, like Akbar had been arrested and they needed a profile shot. We saw a nice little profile shot of
Admiral
Akbar.
Backbar.
Admiral Backbar, as some people said. Then in, I think, the most sort of geeky, oh my god, what's happening, sort of shot, there was a stormtrooper with some sort of energy base pole deflecting or not being cut in twain.
Yeah, like we used to see with General Grievous's guard.
Yeah, their electrostaffs.
Yeah.
The Magna Guards had their electrostaffs, and it looks like the Stormtroopers have something like that, which is kind of fascinating if we're living in a galaxy that's sort of like, the Force, whatever. Well, it's not really real.
Could have been lucky. Could have just been like, we've got something kind of similar. Or it could be something that Kylo Ren got lucky with. And then when Hux was like, dude, you got to give us some of that tech, he was like, well, whatever, just try to figure it out. This is how I did it. And they end up with a very rough, just electrical charge that might be able to deflect on a very basic level.
Yeah, but it was cool to see Finn hacking away.
Yeah, it's like,
that's something. Yeah, and also just a very, very cool shot. And then also in terms of the just cool, there was a shot of Han shooting. I'm gonna just say Han.
Just do it.
There was a shot of Han
call him
shooting.
Hun.
Yes, he's a Hun. Yeah. So and it was great, classic pose of one hand out to the side, the blaster up. And I like those kind of things where like I figured that Han is going to shoot during the movie, and it's just a second. So it's just that thing that makes you excited but doesn't actually reveal. And then there was a new shot of X-Wing skimming something that looked like the Starkiller base.
Something.
Which is another thing that brought me back a little bit more to like that's a very New Hope type of shot. And is that the climax?
The Blue Squadron.
Yeah, and then there was a Disney Channel, both a UK and an American version, behind the scenes sort of promo thing. And the behind the scenes is mostly just some narrators reminding us that Star Wars is cool. It's full of danger, excitement, and various things. And then we got a couple new shots in those.
And I liked how the UK one had like a puppet character. That was presumably from like Maz Kanata's place of
bar drinking.
Place of bar.
Yeah.
And the US version didn't. But the US kid got to sit in a X-Wing. It's like, come on, what? Whatever, it's fine.
Unfair. You got a shot of General Hux saying fire and something firing, which was great. We got Poe saying we got company, which is close to a New Hope line, right? And then we saw Rey and Finn maybe in the Falcon. Some more of that.
Pretty sure.
Yeah.
Pretty sure.
Yeah, probably. But yeah, so that's about it for new shots. Maybe a couple other like sort of alternate angles or whatever. The thing that I saw this week that excited me the most for new Star Wars footage was brand new Star Wars footage that is not from the movie, which is what I would love to see because it got me so excited for the movie. This was the best Star Wars thing this week, in my opinion, a Verizon commercial. And because it was Chewbacca in BB-8, just having a little adventure on what looked like old Death Star. So that could be new Starkiller Base, who knows. But the shtick of the commercial is that Verizon is telling you that you're going to be able to load your data really quickly. And BB-8 is trying to download data, can't do it fast enough, and Chewbacca is holding off stormtroopers. There are a couple reasons that this excites me. It's exciting to see Chewie and BB-8 together. There are a lot of commercials like that when the classic trilogy was around, and you didn't have all of this media, you didn't have the internet, and you would just be excited to see 3PO and R2-D2 in a dumb commercial, because
like
that's all the Star Wars you could get.
Yeah.
So
that's
it
cool.
harkened back to that. So it also sorry, I got so excited I made music play with my mind for a second.
Right.
It harkened back to that sort of commercials, and it's new. It's new and it's exciting, and it makes me feel like, yes, I want to go watch a Star Wars movie without telling me anything about the movie. So I feel like that's the kind of marketing that is needed right now for general audiences.
Yeah.
It had a great sense of humor. And
more stuff that isn't trailers.
Yes.
Yeah,
exactly.
I totally agree with that.
Awesome. So that's it for the new stuff. We'll talk a little bit more about it later in the show. Some of our Mind Probe questions are very Force Awakens centric. But now we're going to get into Mark Donica's big Disneyland adventure.
Yes.
So you went there this morning. You saw all the new stuff. I want to you're going to tell us all about the new stuff.
Yes, I am.
I want to give people a little bit of context for your relationship with Disneyland and for people who have never been to Disneyland. So how old were you when you first went to Disneyland?
An age that I can't remember.
Okay.
I believe I was under 1. My very first time, my first cognizant time, I remember being like 3 or 4 and just being scared of all of the rides and such.
Excellent. And how much of your current love of Star Wars is because the park has had a Star Wars presence for a long time?
Star Tours has been my way to, like, even though it was the same adventure every time, it's been my way to get into that adventure and feel a part of it. So it instrumental. Like from the very first time I was even on this show, I was talking about Star Tours. Yeah. So that's instrumental in my fandom for Star Wars.
And I think most people know what Star Wars is, or Star Tours.
Yeah.
What Star Tours is, but on the off chance, it's basically you get loaded onto a ride and you have a sort of adventure in one of the Star Wars universe's planets.
So the basic idea of Star Tours, it started out as you were going to go visit the Forest Moon of Endor, and then Calamity, essentially, and you end up destroying a Death Star. Don't know which Death Star it is.
There are plenty of them to choose from.
Yeah. And then recently, within the past 5 or 6 years, God, has it been that long? They retooled it to take place in between episodes 3 and 4, and they have a variety of different experiences and different planets that you can go on. And for this most recent one, they added Jakku as a destination.
Nice. And that's up now. That's one of the new things as of today.
Yes, and we actually have a video that we're going to show that Disney released, so I'm not stealing anything. It's not in 3D, but it is of the Millennium Falcon flying away and trying to escape from First Order TIE fighters. So it's the whole sequence. You blast, or are we just getting into it, or are there any other questions?
Let's get into it.
Let's get into it. So the whole sequence starts with you blast onto Jakku and you just go straight up into this firefight. You're in the graveyard, and when we were talking, this is the coolest thing. When we were talking about Finn probably being in the gunner seat of the Millennium Falcon.
Yeah.
Star Tours, what are you doing here? John Boyega as Finn saying, Star Tours, what are you doing here? We're like, all right, we'll put up our deflector shield. Try to follow us. We'll get you out of here.
Okay.
So you're following John Boyega Finn in the Millennium Falcon, trying to escape TIE fighters. You end up flying through the downed Star Destroyer and crashing, and a bunch of scavengers come and start taking the ship apart, and you blast off into space, and it's really fun. It's short. It hints at a couple of maneuvers that the Millennium Falcon does in the film that we haven't seen it do before.
So I think we don't want to hear those.
No, I'm not gonna. I was never gonna say them, but just in general. It's something I never thought the Falcon could do that. It's something that you see and you go, oh, that totally makes sense, but holy crap, it's new. So yeah, that was one of the coolest parts. I don't know if Jonathan in the booth has played it yet, but it's a fun, cool little section.
No, not yet.
Not yet.
Yeah,
okay, go ahead and play it.
All right, let's do it.
And of course, this is the whole ride is in 3D.
So you successfully feel like you're really moving about, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's smooth, and then when you're flying through the Star Destroyer, it's really compact and tight, so you're bumping around a little bit. It's not really intense, but it's pretty great.
Right,
it's pretty awesome.
Right. Because Star Tours has always been for it's really, really for all ages. So there's nothing too scary. It's just reminds kids of the excitement of Star Wars.
Yes,
and makes them feel a part of it. Right.
So a part of the new Star Tours for it's a randomized cycle, so you're never supposed to go on the same ride twice. For this promotion, you always go on Jakku first.
Nice.
But there's 2 different intros that it can be. Jakku is the intro, and then you get a message from a character. It's usually one of 3 characters, either Princess Leia, Admiral Akbar, or Yoda. For this, there is a new character added into that mix from The Force Awakens. I'm not going to say who, because it's a fun little surprise. And then you continue with the rest of the ride like you would. The Force Awakens part is just the first destination and the center part, and then it goes on like it normally would. They replaced certain things with the, like, you land in Coruscant and you end up landing in this hangar, and it ends up being the Millennium Falcon instead of just a random couple of ships.
Cool.
So they kind of maintain the story a bit, but it's super awesome. Super fun, and I mean, being my favorite ride, it's hard to describe. Oh no, it's terrible, but it's pretty great.
Cool. So what is the rest of the kind of new exciting stuff?
So. First of all, the land itself, they've outfitted with a whole bunch of stuff. We're going to show in a second here.
And when you say the land itself, do you mean just like Disneyland?
The entirety of Tomorrowland. Okay. You've got Star Wars music, whether it's classic or new. It sounds like there are some new cues in there. There's the version of the love theme that we hear in the trailer that played pretty often. So as upsetting as it was to be in some of those lines, it's still like, hey man, this is Star Wars.
So like, you could hear the music from outside?
Oh, they were blaring it. So
the ride was calling to you?
Well, it kind of. There were cheers echoing out of Hyperspace Mountain, so that was flipping great. So the entire land has kind of a miniature Star Wars makeover. There's signs here and there. They've got little, like you would see on the side of a street pole. It's got like Season of the Force, Season of the Force, Season of the Force, with different characters on them, and there are random patrols of First Order troopers.
Oh, nice.
Which is kind of cool. So I didn't get a picture of one because they were moving.
Yeah.
Which was kind of cool.
Did any of them have like deflector poles?
No, they didn't have deflector poles. They just had regular blasters. But it's cool seeing it kind of come to life in that way.
Yeah.
There have been long rumors of a R2-D2 live character droid that drives around in the land, but still nothing yet, and that would also just shut down the area because everybody would just flood. So Star Tours we covered. Hyperspace Mountain is a reskinning of the classic Space Mountain ride, and it puts you in the middle of a dogfight above the planet of Jakku. There was a little story, like I thought it was like, oh, it's cool, it's just a thing. But right before going on the ride, it's like, we have a mission for you. And Akbar's back. So Akbar, he sets up our mission. There's a Star Destroyer outside of Jakku. You'll be flying with Blue Squadron 77, and that's a theme park reference. 77 was the year that Space Mountain came out, so 77 is kind of all over the thing. So
right, and then there's that whole Star Wars movie that came out in 1977.
Well, there is that, but Station 77 has been a thing for Space Mountain specifically.
Okay. So yeah, lucky for them that they both came out at the same year. We're gonna buy that someday. I'm sure skin our whole park with it.
Sure that's how they were thinking.
Yeah.
It's really weird walking through the park, and they have Death Star balloons that just glow, and it's like, that's a little ominous and weird. So it's kind of the same ride as Space Mountain. They've added some effects. You go up the lift hill in hyperspace, but you see the Star Destroyer come right out of hyperspace when you reach the top. There are different lasers and ships that fly by. You see TIE fighters explode in your face. It's really cool. There's Star Wars music playing the whole time. It's fun. They found a way to plus an already great ride, but the couple of Star Wars things, like on the picture, it adds little bits of information about Blue Squadron and the X-wing.
And in Orabesh, right?
No, that's supposed to be and in Orabesh. Sorry, my brain totally farted. So they have it in Orabesh on top and then English on the bottom.
Cool.
And they had like rotating views of each ship and each planet, so that was cool. But that's not the biggest addition to the parks was Star Wars Launch Bay, which is their new meet and greet and exhibit and merchandise hub. And I waited in line for that for about 50 minutes just to get in and get a glimpse.
Okay, so take it back a step. So Launch Bay, is this a standard thing that they do? So Launch Bay just sounds like come here and buy Star Wars stuff. It's not like a ride. It's not an experience. It's wait in line to take a photo with characters and buy stuff.
Essentially, that they have similar things. It's also a version of a different attraction that they had called the Blue Sky Cellar, where they could show stuff, whether it's movies in production or park stuff in production. You get to see sort of advanced stuff on that. So this is like a mini museum with they have Disney Infinity 3.0. They have 3 meet and greet areas, and there were 3 lines to get in. You wait in one major line, then it splits into light side or dark side, and they have different characters making an appearance for either side.
So they make children choose to be evil or good.
And it just for the initial time, just for the initial line, and then once you get in there, you can wait in line for the other one.
Yeah.
So there was that. So today it was Chewbacca for the light side, and Boba Fett in one area and Darth Vader in another area for the dark side.
So they just straight up made Boba Fett full on dark side.
I'm not sure.
There wasn't a bounty hunter line?
There wasn't a bounty hunter line, but he was in kind of like a Mos Eisley area where it's just kind of deserty, and you could kind of put any character there. There might be some Force Awakens characters that might be able to fit there, but Boba Fett might as well. He's an easy dude to put in a suit.
Yes.
Yeah. So the bottom area, they took what was known as the Interventions building. It used to be like a Salute to the Future,
right? And
now the top floor is Marvel, and the bottom floor is Star Wars.
And is there a middle floor? That's just
there's not a middle floor. That's every fan's like, oh my god, it's Spider-Man with a lightsaber.
Sad Mickey Mouse alone up there in the second floor.
Sounds about right.
Can you physically look around Disneyland anywhere without seeing Star Wars things?
Yes, they stick true to what Walt wanted to do, where it's you're in this land. That's it. On Main Street, it's kind of a gray area because it leads you into all of the other lands.
Right, you can shoot off to all the other lands.
But once you get into Tomorrowland, it's like, no, this is it. This is Tomorrowland. Everybody can see the different mountain ranges from wherever you are. So you can see Space Mountain from New Orleans Square. You can see Big Thunder Mountain from Fantasyland. So the mountains are one thing, but in terms of Star Wars specifically, if you're in Tomorrowland, that's all that you can see.
Cool. So you can just go there and immerse yourself. Mm-hmm. But if you need to just take a Star Wars breather for just a second,
get out.
Yeah.
Yeah. So here's one of the exhibits that they had an entire Imperial set up with different ships as well as uniforms. One of my favorite things, we might have skipped it. Can you go back to the... Okay, so here's some stuff from The Force Awakens. Let's go back to that second one.
So this is all in Star Wars Launch Bay?
This is all in Launch Bay, and this is just a fraction of some of the stuff that they have on display. So here's Captain Phasma's setup. We see her binoculars as well as her blaster, and it's got a little blurb about her and why her stuff is chrome. It's just to sort of strike fear as a leader. Mm-hmm. Nothing super story, but kind of cool to hear. There is a lot of stuff from the light side as well, and from some of our heroes. There's a Poe's blaster and the example of a Blue Squadron Resistance X-Wing. And then if we skip 2 ahead, there is something really... Well, first of all, this is the scary... one more, go back.
So for people who listen on YouTube, be sure to describe this.
So this is a medical droid's head that seems to be mounted on... This was just a light fixture. And I found it was just kind of on the wall to the side.
Yeah.
And it scared me so much... I had to take a picture of it.
Yeah, so if you're listening on iTunes and can't see this photo, it basically looks like a mashup of Star Wars and Saw.
Yeah, essentially, somebody killed and mounted a medical droid's head.
Yeah, 2-1B's head is up there, yeah.
Yes. So I wanted to see that. And then the next picture, there is nothing but love for Star Wars Rebels.
Oh,
Star Wars Rebels is all over this place. And they have an example of Rebel ships, so that's where the Ghost comes from. And in the line for... one of the characters, I don't remember which, they have a setup of helmets, and one of Sabine's was poking right through, so I want to make sure to get a picture of it. Looks glorious in real life.
Yeah, so is that like a life-size helmet? Somebody was playing Sabine somewhere?
There's a glass case with different helmets, like famous helmets, and that was one of them.
But what I'm asking is, are they like the size that you would wear on your head?
Yes.
Like it's an actual prop?
It looks like a prop,
Did you take it as a hint or clue that Sabine could show up in a live action thing?
Not necessarily. I think it's more of just like Rebels is a thing too and an important thing.
Yeah.
I would love for it to mean that, but it's probably just for fans.
Yeah.
And then if you see on the left side of that picture, they had multiple setups for different lightsabers on different sides of the Force. So they had the Inquisitor as the main show off for the pre-Battle of Yavin era.
Okay, cool.
Including a actual life-size Inquisitor, like circular lightsaber.
Oh, nice.
Which was really, really cool to see how much they're like, no, this is Star Wars, this is important.
And again, like it's built out like a prop from a live-action movie,
exactly.
obviously.
Exactly.
That's really, really
like
cool. That's
yeah.
awesome.
And I thought that was a nice sort of attention to detail and a nod to the fans. There's even more Star Wars Rebel stuff that I wasn't showing. There were 2 other lightsaber displays, one of which featured Mace Windu's, and another was Luke, and it had a whole bunch of different types of lightsabers.
Good.
And there was an excuse me, let me just clear my throat for a moment. In the Force Awakens setup, they had Anakin's lightsaber, and they just referred to it as the hero lightsaber.
Interesting. So Anakin / Luke's, we've discussed on this show how we all as Star Wars fans have different knee-jerk reactions when we see that lightsaber to go, it's Luke's, and other people say, oh, it's Anakin's.
It is just the hero's lightsaber.
The hero's lightsaber, which is very, very interesting and a really cool way to brand it. At this point.
Agreed.
And make it ambiguous. How much prequel stuff was there?
There was a fair amount. They had a lot of models of troop transports, early A-Wings. There was plenty. They had a video called Path of the Jedi. We showed don't show that yet. That's a surprise. It called Path of the Jedi in the in one of the theaters. That was a 13-minute long, or I guess 10-minute long hype package that was all things Star Wars. And I took some notes on that as well. It's supposed to be the story of Luke Skywalker from episode 4 to episode 6, while taking into account all of the stuff that happened with Anakin. So
interesting.
It has Obi-Wan. It starts with Obi-Wan's monologue. It goes through the dogfight in episode 3 just to kind of establish the friendship, and then there's sizzle reel with all of the characters, like kind of best lines. It jumps around from the from 4, 5, and 6, but there's 100% so much prequels in there, and not like forget about those, right? Like no, they show excellent like echoing shots of like Darth Vader leading a battalion and Anakin approaching the Jedi Temple with the troops behind him, and it was very well edited, very well cut together, and that theater kind of has motion seats, so it took you for a ride a little bit.
Okay, cool.
And it ended with the battle at the end of Jedi and the funeral pyre, and as it faded up to, or as it panned up to black, there has been an awakening, and
nice.
then it played the Super Bowl commercial.
So it was basically previously on the Skywalker saga,
essentially.
Yeah, but it was catching people up.
It was cool to see in a theater with people.
Yeah,
to watch that kind of a thing.
I would love to see like even a minute-long spot that is that basically. Like I think that would be a great commercial for The Force Awakens as we need to fill up these next 4 weeks. That reminds people of where we've been and get them excited that this is the next chapter in a story. And they said that on the Disney behind the scenes promo of like, get ready for the next chapter. I feel like marketing wise, that's kind of what both the fans and the general public need to hear right now is like, it's not another one. Yeah. It's the next chapter in this story.
Like a subtle eye roll in
that people have lived with, whether you're 6 years old or 50 years old, that you've lived with for a huge part of your life. It's a continuation of that story.
Because seeing Luke from the 2 sons all the way to just wailing on Vader and then going, no, that's I am a Jedi, like my father before me.
Head nod back to his dad.
Yep.
I love that shot.
And there wasn't, when they they showed Vader getting his mask taken off, there wasn't like the weird edit that's kind of like Hayden Christensen, and there wasn't the which is the new one that they added in for when he throws the Emperor over,
right?
And that wasn't in there either. They maintained the feel and the emotion, and you feel a lot in that trailer.
Oh yeah.
There's an awesome spot that I do hope that they release someday, but for right now, I think until once the end of this season happens, then if they release that, I think that'd be an excellent way to be like, here's Star Wars in 5 minutes.
Awesome. Anything else from Disney before we get on to the Mind Probe?
Go ahead and hit that next slide. The merchandise.
Okay.
If you look carefully on the right side, you see a medal. Now, that medal is the one that is given to our heroes at the end of A New Hope. That has never been released in an official capacity before.
Okay, cool.
Those were flying off of the shelves to the point where there were people in suits, like with handfuls of them, just like, are you need one? Do you need one?
So they're like $1 million on eBay right now.
Well, now that they're a regular commodity, luckily you can go and get an official Disney brand one. It'll cost you maybe an arm, not necessarily a leg, but it'll be an officially licensed medal, and you're going to see those popping up at weddings. You're going to see those at graduations, all sorts of crap. And on the left side of the screen, did you have one more question about that?
No, go ahead. Keep going.
So they are selling officially licensed costumes.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Darth Vader with 2 helmets, including the thing off and the thing on, which I had to cut off for the slide's sake. $6,000.
Wow.
But you get a complete Darth Vader costume. There was also an Imperial costume that you can get for I think it was like $450. Han Solo costume with a full jacket, full coat. That's like if I remember correctly, it was like $500-$600.
I'm really curious to see how this is gonna play out with hardcore fans, because obviously it's super cool that you can go in and I imagine you can get it fitted or whatever, so you can look like Han Solo or Darth Vader. But I mean, those are 2 huge facets of Star Wars fandom: is like general cosplay, like I make my own perfect Han Solo jacket for a convention, and then just the whole 501st Legion of making your own armor, and everybody, trading information back and forth about how to do
not necessarily Stormtrooper armor, but just boring Imperial like green with stuff. So not Trooper armor, but
But 501st makes like Vader in that too. So but I'm happy to hear that it is priced as a sort of like, your just funny uncle can't be Darth Vader at Thanksgiving.
No,
that like. You really need, that's an investment. Like, you really have to want to dress up as Darth Vader.
Yeah, they've got little descriptions on them, but as well as please see cast member for assistance. So it's not just like, oh, I'll take a large of this one. It's you have to go. There's probably an area where you can get fitted and all this stuff. And this was just what I thought was the coolest stuff that they don't have on the general floor, especially that metal, and the Imperial belt buckle, just the simple flat with the. But there was a whole maybe not half, a quarter of the floor was merchandising.
Okay.
Create your own Star Wars phone case, shirts, Legos, figures. They had Kenner stuff. They had classic Kenner stuff.
Oh, awesome.
Like sort of the big billowy plastic stuff. It's mind-blowing. But also, I just want to go back to look at everything, because I jetted through, took a whole bunch of pictures, and then looked at them while I was waiting in the next line. So it's an experience if you're a Star Wars fan. Disneyland is open. Disney World, their season of the Force is going to open in December.
Okay.
And they're going to have similar offerings. I'm sure the merchandise is going to be the same because they like branding it. It's easier. So yes, if you can have a wonderful time for Christmas with your family at either Disney park on either side of the nation. But bring your wallet, because it's even more expensive than just Disney. It is now Disney and Star Wars. Enjoy yourself. Merry Christmas.
Just bring your bank number and just shout it as you walk down the streets, because Disney will take all of your money. I have one flavor question for you about your Disneyland experience.
Please.
If you could go to Disneyland with any Star Wars character, who would be the best one to go to Disneyland with?
Best one to go to Disneyland with, as opposed to who would I want to. Best person to go to Disneyland with would be probably Chewbacca.
Okay.
Because people get out of the way.
Right.
He wouldn't be able to go on too many of the rides because of his height.
Yeah.
But he'd be able to swing me to the front of the line.
Nice.
Probably.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's a great answer. Shall we move on?
Let's do it. Let's
Excellent.
get to the Mind Probe. Thanks to everybody on Facebook for submitting these questions. Just go to our Facebook page at Jedi Alliance and submit these questions, please. We're running a little low. But,
So we'll throw out a specific. It's hard to keep track of them if you send them as like messages or random responses. So we will put up a specific post that is a request, and that's the best place to get them. Then we don't miss your awesome questions.
That's where we pull them from, and they've been mostly about the Force Awakens, but once we get closer to that, and once that goes away, we'll probably have tons more.
A few more movies coming out.
Yeah, possibly. So our first question from Thomas Westfall. How many characters, if any, will be clones?
I think it would be awesome if there are clone characters in The Force Awakens. I don't think there will be any.
Yeah, I don't think there will be any either. It'd be nice to see Kamino, maybe.
Yeah, and I feel like we might get into more of that. I feel like the clone technology is a little too prequel, and I don't think they're going to go too prequel deep in Force Awakens. I think they will in future movies. And from what we already know about the plot, it just seems like there's already so much going on that introducing the idea that has been an expanded universe that like individuals can make clones of themselves. So, like in the official canon, we have mostly seen like, oh, a clone army created. But the idea that's been in like what is now Legends of like Palpatine made a bunch of clones of himself. That idea hasn't really been introduced in the films.
No.
So I feel like that's a bigger idea that should be a plot of almost a whole movie, and it doesn't seem like that's what Force Awakens is about.
No, and I think, I mean, I just had a thought, and hopefully it's not that, but in the, what was the video game called? The
Force Unleashed?
Force Unleashed, jeez.
The Force does a lot of things.
It's been a long day.
Hard to keep track of. The Force Verbed.
The Force Verbed. So the second game, the sequel, Galen Merrick ends up being a clone.
Yeah.
So I hope that Kylo Ren isn't a clone, and I hope that they wouldn't do that.
Yeah,
but it's possible.
Yeah, that seems to be like one of the burgeoning questions as we get closer to the film. We all think it's going to be good, and now we're finding reasons to be nervous. I think that's one of the big questions: is how much of it is going to be too much of a nod to the past?
Yes, and hopefully we're pleasantly surprised.
Yeah.
H.J. Lewin Vaughn, hope I pronounced that right. How many times are you going to see the TFA in theaters? The TFA in theaters. The Force Awakens.
The Force Awakens. I will see. I'm seeing 3 times the opening weekend for sure, and then I suspect that I will see it several more times for a total of 172.
That's a low number. That's a pretty low number.
Yeah, but I think it's going to stay in theaters for a really, really long time.
I think at least till like maybe even when I think it'll be in theaters until it comes out on DVD, and then they'll keep it open for a couple more weeks.
Yeah,
I'm to be honest, It's weird throwing out this number, but maybe 10.
Yeah,
like in total.
I think my honest number is about 7 because at that point, like that's the most I could possibly want to see it, because then I would want to just like let it sit and wait until when it comes out on some kind of media. Yeah. So I can kind of enjoy it with slightly fresher eyes. I think the reason that it's going to last in theaters is because that's generally what December movies do, is that they have a longer shelf life. So we'll see. And it could flame out, but I don't think it will.
Yeah, I saw Guardians of the Galaxy 4 times the first week.
Yeah,
but to be honest, I haven't seen it since. I have it on Blu-ray, but I haven't watched it again because I've seen it 4 times.
You just absorbed it. Yeah, it's part of your DNA now.
So I can only imagine. Because it's Star Wars, I would want it to break that record.
Yeah, I think it will.
Eric Bay Anderson, will there be a Star Wars movie that shows the Battle of Tanab?
The Battle of Tanab, mentioned by Lando in Return of the Jedi, is that's why he got promoted. They must have heard about his maneuver. Yep. Sorry, I just found myself thinking of Lando's maneuver.
Lando's sweet maneuver.
I became amused inside.
What have we here?
Good old Lando. I think that it would be great to see some movies that flesh out those little things that are just mentions.
Why not the Han Solo movie?
Yeah, that would be cool to have the Battle of Tanab in. It would be fun. This would be super weird. I don't think they'll ever do it. It'd be fun to just have things that have been casually mentioned anthology movie.
That would be pretty great, actually. And it's an anthology. Yeah, where it's just little sets of shorts, but it's like on a full motion picture scale. Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Yeah,
I'd be totally down with that.
Yeah, I mean, I think like Marvel, they're not calling them phases, but clearly they have the first phase of Star Wars planned. They've got
first 6.
Yeah, they've got 2 standalones and this new saga. The general public might be a little burned out, so they must have something in mind of like, what's the phase 2 after that to keep Star Wars alive?
Almost Famous, but with Max Rebo.
Getting really deep there.
Totally be down. Stephen Kelly, what do you think Luke's first line will be in The Force Awakens? Do you think Luke's going to speak at all in The Force Awakens?
I think he will definitely speak. I feel like theaters would be ripped apart if Luke Skywalker does not speak. And I feel like since they've done the huge build-up, and they even talked about it in Entertainment Weekly, it was nice and non-spoilery of like just Abrams confirming, of course there's a reason you're not seeing him, and you will find out. I feel it would be great if he said, I've got a great feeling about this, just to subvert tradition. But I honestly think it will be I don't think it will be anything that sort of apes. I don't think it'll be like directly like "Hello there," like we've heard Obi-Wan Kenobi say twice. But I think it'll be something in that spirit. I think it will be one thing that J.J. Abrams is really great about in movies is that sort of a hero introduction. Like he lets you know when you're meeting a main character just in the way it's filmed.
Yeah.
And I feel like Luke Skywalker is going to have such a powerfully well shot reveal moment that I think a hood is going to come down and something like "Hello there" is going to be coming out of his mouth.
You don't think we're going to get like a Wisa going home or something like that?
I do not.
No,
I do not. That's also a theater tear apart move.
I don't know. I think if you put that line or Jar Jar at the right time, there are people who will go, "This really pisses me off, but something great is about to happen." So I think there's some of that. Do you think we have time for our last one?
Yeah, I think so. That'd be fun.
All right, Gilmartin Perry Galars. If I'm or Galarche. Totally sorry if I got that wrong, but I love you. If Rey and Kylo are Skywalkers from Luke's side and not Leia's, which I think it is from Leia's, who would be the mother of Rey or Kylo?
Yeah, so I want Rey to be Luke's daughter for reasons that I think, I don't know, I think I need some analysis. I think I need some therapy to find out why I so want Rey to be Luke's kid.
I need this.
The trailers are certainly, unless they are pulling a switch, it really does seem to be connecting her to Han.
Yeah.
But I feel like I said earlier, that it would be a mystery in The Force Awakens because I feel like it is too big of a story. And I think it's absolutely amazing and wonderful that the original trilogy characters are returning. But it feels like there's a saga in between of these characters truly in their prime, because the classic trilogy is how Han, Leia, and Luke became heroes.
It's the origin story.
It's their origin story. It's their. This isn't entirely right age-wise, but it's their 20s,
Mm-hmm.
and like now this movie's in their 40s, 50s, 60s. Like we missed that sort of. We're in the prime, and I think the story of if Luke does have children, that story is going to be told in some other media. That they must know that they have this utter sweet spot of this is when the heroes were in their prime.
I couldn't even imagine. It's probably going to be the boring answer, but probably the correct answer is somebody we haven't met yet. If it is somebody that we've met, I think that would cheapen the idea of it.
Yeah, and I think we're all going to find out when The Force Awakens comes out how much it is we're not doing things that were done in the expanded universe that is now Legends.
Yeah.
I think there's a good possibility that Rey and Kylo will be twins, and I think if anything like that starts to happen, then it's sort of like, all right, the floodgates are open. They've already picked a few little things out of expanded universe and books and comics, but the movies yet haven't gone yeah, okay, we'll do that. Mm-hmm. And I think we're going to find out.
I suppose we will. And that's it for Mind Probe. Again, if you want to join in on this conversation, go to our Facebook page, like it, Jedi Alliance. We're going to set out a post calling for Mind Probe questions, so stay tuned, but make sure you like us so that way it shows up on your feed.
Yeah, so finally we're going to get into our final segment, Duel of the Fates. You summon the Force energy slowly, powerfully. Oh, I think that was great. Oh, you brought. I just put it up there. You're bringing it back down,
and then you bring it back down.
Bring it down.
You use
it for the pumping.
Yeah,
excellent. Last week's Duel of the Fates question was, if you could have either in real life, would you want a lightsaber or a good blaster by your side? And man, this was one of my favorite series of answers to read. We always put this up as a Facebook post and collect your answers there. And there were many that were like, come on, lightsaber, lightsaber, lightsaber. And all of us on the panel last week, we answered lightsaber. But plenty of people did weigh in that lightsabers are only so great if you don't have the Force. Mm-hmm. And there was plenty of mention of how quickly one would lose their hand. So it was surprisingly close, but lightsabers did win ultimately because they are just so cool. And one person, Reed Gibson, said, lightsaber. I can think of so many practical uses. Tree trimming, snow removal, carpentry. Plus, as shown in New Hope, it can end any argument in a bar with a flick of the wrist.
Beautiful.
It's beautiful. Yeah, it is. There's a lot that you can do with a lightsaber, including injure yourself. But lightsaber was indeed the winner. This week's question, in the final shot of Force Awakens, will our characters be facing toward or away from the camera, or a third brand new thing that we have never seen at the end of a Star Wars movie?
It's such you'd think, oh, that's a silly question, but it's a really good question. I really like the idea of them looking towards the camera, because as with any trilogy, the first movie is a completed story, and 2 and 3 are super interconnected. Like, we know that this is going to be 3 movies already, but I can't imagine it ending with them looking off. Really,
yeah.
I can only imagine them facing the camera.
Yeah, traditionally, in the first 2, it's been a story of apparent triumph.
Yes.
Like, we've triumphed up to a point, or we believe we've triumphed, and we don't really realize the darkness of the entire story. So if they're facing toward the camera, that definitely means this is kind of a new hope. Again.
A new hope.
A new hope. But if they're facing away, that would be a bold choice, because that suggests that they're aware of the troubles that are coming.
This is only the beginning.
Yeah. Or do you think that they would do something new?
I would like for them to do something new. Like you said, it's the part where we would expect one thing, they do another, but then they make it make sense in a way that isn't like, oh, what a twist. So I think there's a huge opportunity, and that they should take advantage of it.
Yeah, there's a lot of shots in the Clone Wars. Like, you can see, especially in the first season of the Clone Wars, they're trying to keep that mood of it's kind of front on or from the back. But there are a lot of shots of Clone Wars of people walking away from whatever just happened toward the next thing. And I think that would be really cool.
Spaceship flying away?
Yeah. Yeah.
In the cockpit?
Yeah,
as
maybe.
opposed to standing and watching a spaceship fly away?
Yeah.
Could be fun.
I'm intrigued. And I think that will tell us a lot about what the big picture arc of the new trilogy is going to be. Right now, we don't have any spoilers on that, and that's nice.
Thank goodness.
All right, so we're going to wrap up.
Let's do it.
Tell people where they can find you.
Well, if you want to find me on social media, you can follow me.
Be more confident. They do want to find you.
If you do.
If you want to find me.
If you want to play Star Wars Battlefront with me on the PlayStation 4, that comes out tonight. We're going to be talking about it all next week. It's going to be a Battlefront blowout. I almost said the wrong thing. And we're going to have some wonderful guests in the studio. If you want to know who those people are, follow me on Twitter. If you want to play with me, I'm going to be playing all day tomorrow. Seriously. I'm getting the brand new Darth Vader PS4. I'm bringing it in. We're going to have an amazing time. And again, Soapbox Mark, that's me on Twitter. And we're doing a new episode of Video Game Movie Anatomy tonight with Lara Croft, Tomb Raider, The Cradle of Life, a terrible movie. Spoiler alert! But Joseph Scrimshaw.
Excellent. You can find me on all the social medias as at Joseph Scrimshaw. You can find about all my shows on my website at josephscrimshaw.com. I just put out a new album, a little holiday EP. It is comedy stories with some backing music by our frequent guest, Tony Thaxton. And one of my favorite pieces on there is I have a piece where I play Batman, and he reveals his actual feelings about the Batman Jingle Bells song. And it is a lot of fun. I also have a show coming up this weekend. If you're here in LA, my show Comedy Dreamtime is this Friday, November 20th at the Nerdist School stage. My guest will be Jeremy Carter from the great podcast Super Ego. So please check out all that stuff. Thank you for watching and or listening to Jedi Alliance. You can visit popcorntalknetwork.com to find a nice list of all the past episodes of Jedi Alliance and links to both YouTube and iTunes. Please also follow us on Twitter and Facebook at Jedi Alliance for the us-related news. This has been Jedi Alliance on the Popcorn Talk Network. We talk movies. Thank you for listening, because many Bothans died to bring us this information.
From producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire Popcorn Talk Network, we would like to thank you for tuning in. For questions or comments, be sure to visit popcorntalk.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of the Popcorn Talk Network.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of the Popcorn Talk Network or its owners or principals.